I mean, ultimately, the best, most sustainable e-commerce store would have no images, it would be black and white, and it would only have text. And that's not going to sell anything.
No.
So it really is all about balance.
Welcome to the In Reviews We Trust podcast, the show where we explore the fascinating world of e-commerce and digital marketing. In today's episode, I have the pleasure of speaking to two of the leading voices in sustainability and environmental impact of e-commerce businesses. First, we have Matt Williams, co-founder of Greenspark, and we also have Tom Locke, the founder of Noughts and Ones. Let's do some quick intros. Matt, can you tell me first about Greenspark, how you came to exist, and why you exist?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. And yeah, essentially, what we're all about is helping e-commerce brands do good things for the planet. So we help them to take sustainable action in a really simple way. They're able to integrate the tools that they already use online and then add things like tree planting, ocean-bound plastic rescue, carbon reduction, and other kind of sustainability projects to things like their product sales, reviews, of course, and subscribers to their email list as well. We then give them a suite of tools to be able to share that with their community across the full customer journey, right from being first landing on the homepage to the product page, cart page, post-purchase with certificates, and unique customer dashboards as well, essentially so that we give them the ability to be super transparent about what they're doing, share it with their community, bring them kind of along on that journey with them. So, they're able to do good things for the planet whilst also connecting more with their conscious audience, and it can help boost their metrics at the same time.
We're actually a client of yours, aren't we?
Yeah.
We work together we're planting trees at the moment.
Yeah, so
it changes all the time. So I don't fully know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's two ways actually. So we have some of our e-commerce brands who are using Reviews.io, essentially adding impact to that customer journey. So when a customer leaves a review, that brand will, on behalf of that customer, plant a tree or rescue that ocean-bound plastic. And then the other thing we do is we have a network feature which allows brands to essentially kind of gift impact. So plant a tree on behalf of any other business. And what we're doing there is, for your agency partners, including Noughts and Ones here, essentially rewarding them for the number of clients they're bringing on board around impact. So it's really good to kind of encourage additional action whilst giving something back.
Awesome. So, Tom, tell us about Noughts and Ones.
Great to be here. Noughts and Ones, so we are a Shopify agency. So we specialize in custom design and development on Shopify and Shopify Plus. And we primarily work with sort of purpose-led, planet-friendly brands, but we also try and deliver custom Shopify stores in as sustainable a way as possible. So we are focused as an agency on digital sustainability. So how can we do what we do in the best possible way? And also who we work with beyond just our brands, but also our tech partners and
you have some
partners.
Great brands. I have seen, we work with a couple of brands with you guys, and probably some of the best brands in the UK work with you now, like fastest growing brands like Maving.
Yeah.
If you don't know what Maving is, it's the battery powered motorbikes.
That's right. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. I did look on your site earlier, and I said I did notice that your motto was planet, people, profit, in that order.
Yeah.
Who came up with that?
To be honest with you, a lot of all of that comes from us as a collective. So everyone that works in Noughts and Ones is part of that voice. So all of that was kind of collated within the team, but a copywriter made it sound properly.
No, it's just so.
Right,
I did go on the site earlier, and I was looking through our co-customers, and I I did like the copy, so I thought I'd ask on whether you wrote it or not. So how can e-commerce brands reduce their carbon footprint and become more sustainable? Obviously, e-commerce is not very environmentally friendly. It was much easier to pop down to the shop. It all went to one place. You went and picked it up. But obviously now, with e-commerce, there's obviously server costs, delivery, returns, things like that.
So yeah, I guess there's so many aspects to how an e-commerce brand can be sustainable. Obviously, what we do is a small part of the puzzle in terms of what makes up their whole brand, their whole business. So there's things that they can look at on the operational side, obviously with, trying to provide the most sustainable delivery, packaging, all of that sort of stuff. And then from our perspective, what we try and do is actually help brands ensure that their online sustainability is in check and even just considered, ultimately, is really what we want, is our mission, I guess. So a lot of what we focus on with regards to how brands or e-commerce brands can be more sustainable is how are they doing what they do online, and is that in a sustainable way, or as a sustainable way as possible, basically.
Yeah. It is interesting because obviously you're only a small part of that. You're developing the site and you're hosting on Shopify. Are you doing any headless for those people?
For certain brands, yeah, if that setup makes sense for them and their business.
Yeah.
But I would say probably 80% of the clients we work with are on native Shopify.
Are they mainly UK businesses you work with?
Pretty much, yeah. We have worked with a couple of US and Australian businesses, but primarily UK.
I say that because I was talking to my friend this week. He runs a large multinational fashion retailer, huge, and he's actually shipping things from the UK to Australia. And then when that person gets it and goes, oh, I want to return this item, the parcel then gets returned back to the UK. He only just found out, the business is massive. It's got a, $500 million turnover. And looking at his returns procedures for international, he was allowing multiple returns from one customer. And the footprint of this return, he was delivering clothing to New Zealand and then allowing them to return each item individually as they tried them on. And the footprint for that return was astronomical. Plus the cost was, they were basically losing money on if the customer returned one item. And I was like, well, you've just got to stop supplying Australia or New Zealand. You've got to find a better way. And while you're finding that better way, stop. And he kind of argued that, no, we can't do that because our shareholders, we have to be there.
Lose profit or whatever.
Yeah, we have to keep the turnover up. It's all about keeping that turnover up, keeping shareholders happy. So there is this balance that, brands say they're sustainable, they're trying to be more environmentally friendly, that actually commerce doesn't let them be, and their investors don't let them be more ethical. So what steps can businesses take? Obviously, with your product, businesses can offer
impact.
They can offer, because you plant trees on behalf of clients.
Rescue ocean-bound plastic, offset emissions. So
how would that work for, say, Maving, which is an e-commerce brand?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways they could do that. You could plug in the Shopify store and then automatically choose a specific amount of impacts to be added when that purchase takes place. So, for every bike sold, could plant, say, 20 trees.
So is that
on our project site? So we're plugging in. So it's a Shopify app.
Yeah.
When it comes to our Shopify clients, we do have integrations with Klaviyo, Yotpo, some of the others out there.
So you're working with those brands, but what I'm trying to get at it, how easy is it for that brand to set up?
Yeah, so super easy. With the Shopify app, they can basically plug that in 30 seconds, and then choose from 5 customizable triggers. So is it per order, per product sold? They can set spend levels, choose percentages, and then even this week focus on tree planting, and next week on ocean plastic rescue, or even do it for different products. So one product is doing something, another.
And then how are they selling that revenue to you? Is it coming?
Yeah, so
as a percentage directly off?
It's an addition. So at the end of the month, we'll tally up automatically the amount of orders that have been placed and how much impact they wanted to add to those, and then that just goes straight through the Shopify account, billed directly.
So it gets billed on their Shopify account as a cost.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, makes sense.
I mean, we're still pretty small, so the idea is that we're starting where the majority of e-commerce brands are right now, which is Shopify. They're doing the most interesting things in the market as well. So that's kind of where we've started.
So who's the customer who's using your product really well? Who would you say, this brand's using it well, go and look at what they're doing?
Yeah, so these guys, no, I mean, so the feature that we work with together on is like, it's my dream scenario for what we do, which is essentially, you're working with your own agencies, rewarding them for the work that they're doing with you. And then one of those agencies is Tom here, and essentially, working then with your own clients, gifting them impact as well. So one relationship has become many, and then that could potentially spark more as well. So, that's the
I didn't mean for that to be quite so leading.
So who's doing it well on your side? Who's doing it? Who's one of your clients who you think, like these guys, go and have a look at them?
I think we were talking just before about, I guess, the breadth of what that actually means.
Yeah.
But I think from my perspective and in my opinion, brands that are doing sustainability well or are pioneering in that area are the brands that, yes, they are doing what they can do as sustainably as possible, but more importantly, they are educating and sparking conversation. So we've worked with the Cheeky Panda as a brand example, who absolutely fantastic. Yes, they've got an inherently sustainable product in that it's toiletries from bamboo. But beyond that, they're engaging their customers and ultimately their network to spark conversation. And
who's that brand? Who's an e-commerce brand who is doing impact well? Like, is there anyone on the checkout is there any like lead customer? When someone comes to you and says, right, this is who's doing it really well. Who should I look at as a good example?
Yeah, so one that we've just recently onboarded, a company called John Masters, US skincare brand, really amazing what they're doing. Already very organic, focused around doing good things for the planet. They've just started to work with us because part of what they do is focused on the packaging it's not possible to be fully sustainable. So what they're doing with us is they are rescuing a certain amount of ocean plastic, kind of to offset that. They're saying that we're not perfect, we can't do this right now, but we're working on it. Mm-hmm. And in the meantime, we're working with Greenspark to essentially reduce our overall net plastic consumption.
That's it. I mean, for me, I see so many brands trying to greenwash and say they're doing these things, but not actually doing them. We need a way to identify these brands that are saying, oh, we're doing something sustainable. How can we follow up and actually find out that they are doing those things? We've seen it with Boohoo recently. We've seen it with other brands. Etihad have just been in the news today for greenwashing. It's happening all the time. Consumers have to have faith in what brands are doing behind the scenes. And I think at the minute, I think that faith is not 100% there from the consumer side. And I think we've got to get it back.
I mean, I think an obvious one is B Corp in terms of, okay, there's a certain criteria that a brand and a business has to meet in order to get a certain label, badge, whatever you want to call it. So I think there's things like that which are great, but there's not enough of that in terms of, I'm not saying it's just B Corp, but there should be a lot more transparency around what is actually, not necessarily what is proactively being done, but actually what is being done within the operations of a business as a brand.
Yeah.
How are they existing? And we basically need that transparency to feed into consumers.
We need transparency. Exactly the same, like what you say there, exactly the same the way that reviews has helped transparency and trust and building trust and, learning from past customers. We need that lens into the business to have faith that they're actually doing these things that they say they're doing.
I think you'll probably find the ones that are doing it the best are the ones that aren't actually talking too much about it.
Yeah.
Probably.
That's annoying. That's annoying.
But I guess, that's quite a good point. And I think that's kind of a shame, because, it really would be so useful if they were more vocal about it, because then that kind of gives inspiration to other brands to do more. Allbirds, the shoe brands, they're pretty great in that. So they're just in the process of releasing this like zero carbon shoe, which is pretty cool, like at least from my perspective. So, throughout the whole process of producing this item, zero carbon emissions. I think it's coming out next year or something like that. And they're open sourcing the way that they've gone about doing that. Perfect. So they're giving that information out to other brands, making a lot of noise about it. Yeah. And then, through that, hopefully that's going to inspire others to do something. I think, and that's what we want to do as well. We want to give brands the ability to really shout about what they're doing, and then hopefully use that as a way of encouraging more within the industry to do more. And also their customers are going to be like, that's actually pretty cool. Why aren't other brands doing this? I think, being vocal about these things is actually really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I guess that also kind of does circle back to, the planet, people, purpose, in terms of, okay, they could not make that open source and have it as their thing and make all the profit in the world, but actually that isn't their motivation necessarily. It's part of it, obviously, we're all here to make money, but at the same time, they're doing the right thing by putting...
What would they be doing? Offsetting carbon there?
So I think it's like a whole host of different things. They use wool, like with regenerative farming. The foam they use for the shoes is like bio-based, and it's like it's negative carbon in its production methods. Wow. I mean, I don't really know the full details of it, but it's pretty cool. Yeah.
So how can e-commerce brands leverage technology to improve their sustainability?
So I think with the kind of the boom of e-commerce, with COVID, and I'm not that we want to talk about lockdown, but I think there is a much heightened awareness and expectation from a consumer level. And when it comes to the kind of the technical side of it, I think it's really easy to assume that because something exists online on a screen, it doesn't have any real world impact, which fundamentally, obviously, isn't the case. So what brands need to look at is, okay, who are we working with and how are we working with them to achieve what we have online? So what does Shopify as a platform, what are their sustainability policies? What servers are they working with? How green are they? What energy is being used to power them? And then I guess through that, and where we would step in would be, okay, how sustainable is the front end Shopify store? So really what our kind of bread and butter is as an agency is designing and building online stores that have as low impact as possible. And we do that through, we don't work with Shopify themes from any third-party themes.
Why? Because they're too heavy?
Because typically those themes are bloated with code because they're trying to accommodate 10, 20 sectors. and there'll be loads of stuff in there that ultimately, as a brand, you're only going to be using 10% of it. So from our perspective, we have our own starter theme that we use that is as streamlined as possible, so that the code base you're working with from day dot is as minimal as it could possibly be. And ultimately, if there's less code on a web page, it loads quicker, it has better performance, you're on your device for less time than you could be if it's really slow loading.
Yeah.
So it trickles down into everything.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to other apps, so obviously apps, increase page size, page speed, you have huge effects there. So I know we try and make our app as light as possible.
Of course.
But obviously, there's only
a
so
certain
much you
amount,
can do
sure.
because we're building an app for, 8,000 different sites here, and we have to build a generic version. And because that has so many customizations, it can be quite heavy. So when it comes to us, do you clean out the app completely, and do you use our API to bring data in, or do you use generally one of our widgets?
So typically what we try and do is not use apps.
Yeah.
But obviously it's with all of this kind of stuff with sustainability as a whole, it is all about balance. So from our perspective, the code that we would need to write to have reviews on a Shopify store far outweigh what you guys have been working on for years and have refined and our general approach is to, if it's a simple function, we avoid using apps. And if we need to use an app, we ensure that who we are recommending, firstly, shares values, the right values, and ultimately, as a partner of ours, we can back them and their mission. And then also who we can work with that allow us to not tear it apart, but work with it and make it as streamlined as possible. So we do work on a couple of projects with your API. We have customized widgets. So it's all different levels, but ultimately it is all about balance. Our approach to Shopify development is all based around the idea of having an overall budget in terms of page weight, site weight, page speed, all of that kind of performance stuff. So if we're looking at a project with a client and we, at the start of a project, agree a total budget of your site cannot exceed this level, if we need to bring in an app that pushes that up, we need to make sure that we're compromising somewhere else so that we're not ultimately going over that.
It's always a compromise, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, ultimately, the best, most sustainable e-commerce store would have no images, it would be black and white, and it would only have text. And that's not going to sell anything.
No.
So it really is all about balance.
Who's a good source of information? Obviously, you guys post on LinkedIn and Twitter. Who else is out there, and who people can go and follow, who they should be following, who's becoming a noise in this space?
That's a good question.
We can.
I'm just trying to think. Sorry.
No, I was just thinking because obviously this is such a new area, and I just didn't know if there was any real thought leader out there at the minute, which is, a global thought leader who is making, waves, is becoming that voice.
In my world, in terms of digital and web, there's a chap called Tom Greenwood who's essentially, I would say, is kind of like a pioneer when it comes to digital sustainability. And him and, not that I want to plug another agency, but Whole Grain Digital, they're kind of like, they're a WordPress agency. They're kind of like us, but WordPress.
Yeah.
But as a group of people, they're amazing at educating and making things accessible.
Who's doing good packaging at the minute? Do you know any brands that are really killing their packaging? Because, if you're getting 10 deliveries a day, I've got more rubbish than a warehouse. You know what I mean? It's like, you've got
I think there's some interesting things that I've seen people do, which is like, if you're a fashion brand, like using some of the scraps from the production process to actually then wrap the product in, or rip a piece off and use it as like a tie to essentially take something that would otherwise have just gone in the bin and actually use that for something much more useful, and it's going to reduce the general impact. I think the brands, one of your brands, Cheeky Panda, pretty good at very low packaging, aren't they? It's just it's very simple paper. I think it's all recycled. There's lots of ways that businesses can reduce. I think part of the issue and part of the thing that we need to continue to work on collectively is the supply chains in general, because part of the issue around the packaging might be that, yes, it's sustainable, but can it last the transit? Are we sending it in the right way? And I think we were talking earlier about, why don't we have a fully electric fleet of
delivery network.
logistics.
I mean, Amazon's nearly there, I'd say. I think most of the trucks you see on the road, Amazon trucks in the UK and the US now are electric, but I don't see that from any third party, logistics.
But then, of course,
company
you've got the issue of too many things being sent separately, not thinking necessarily logically about the way that they're put together in the box. Those have other kind of issues, but they are a good example of electric vehicles.
With the Cheeky Panda, one thing that we did with them was we basically built a kind of an impact calculator for shipping. So they're obviously a subscription-based brand, which that is a really good starting point in terms of sustainability, because when things are going to be delivered and you can kind of educate. But we basically built a calculator into their subscription onboarding flow that essentially educates their end users on the impact of having a 1-month subscription or a quarterly subscription. So it was basically just a slider that you increase.
Cool.
And something like that, as simple as that, is really all that it takes to make someone think. And then make a more informed decision. So
I think giving them that option is key. I love what Amazon did, where they said, "Do you want all these? Can we send you all these packages in one delivery rather than 10?" I think that's a great idea, but I don't think other retailers have really caught on to that yet.
Returns is obviously a massive issue.
Huge.
Again, that kind of comes back to educating customers and users. So how can e-commerce brands help their customers make the right decision when they click purchase in terms of size or whatever? So that they're minimizing returns. So things like, fitting guides and even like, AR sizing for, I don't know, shoes, I guess. Hold it against your feet or whatever. But then it comes back to balance, right? So, okay, we want to put AR on our store. Okay, well, not someone's going to say, well, what's the impact of that? So
I think you're right there. I think there is things that more information they can put on their site, which actually lowers returns. And I don't like Q&As. Q&As is a real simple way to lower your returns. Get those questions and answers on there, on the product pages. It lowers your returns, boosts your conversion, but for some reason, a lot of brands don't like their customers' voice on their product pages, and it's weird to me.
Madness.
That is weird to me, it is probably only on reviews.io clients, 1 in 10 uses the Q&A widget correctly. But it lowers. It's proven to lower the returns rate and increase conversion, but they don't want it. It's weird. It's weird.
That is strange.
We don't really object to it enough, maybe at the minute. Maybe that's something that we need to do as a company. Maybe we need to be having that conversation more with these businesses, saying, actually, having these on your site will lower your environmental impact because it will lower your returns. Maybe that's the angle we go at it with. The angle historically we've gone at it with is that it'll boost your conversion. Maybe that we should switch it and go, actually, forget the conversion. You're clearly not either believing that or bothered about that, but definitely we see reviews.
And I guess typically if a conversion for an e-commerce brand is healthy, that is a much harder needle dial to push, right? Whereas I think actually returns is almost at the moment untapped opportunity to increase profitability. And I think the potential impact of reducing returns for brands that are existing and have healthy, core metrics, actually that's going to have a much bigger impact than, moving the needle on their conversion rate a small.
Yeah. That's why I love these podcasts. I come away with ideas and I'm like, right, that's what we can start marketing Q&As in a different way.
Do you think people are worried about what people are going to say? Like, I think that what the actual outcome is positive, but they're worried about that they're not going to get the results that they want.
That because we don't publish the question until it's been answered.
Yeah.
So we don't just have questions hanging there. And our Q&A solution is called, it's kind of answered by the team members, not by other customers. So it's really an expert answers.
I see.
What we found was that when it was answered by consumers, yes, you did get gibberish 10% of the time. And
Amazon's got a lot of that on it.
yeah, and it led to these results that really weren't true and mistruths. Whereas if we asked the brand about that product, how a product's made or how a product can be used in different scenarios, these people are selling it all day long. They're the experts in this product. They're the people who should be answering these questions. So we do it that way. Works really well. Every brand who does Q&A loves it, but getting uptake is difficult for that solution.
And it
surprises me.
Yeah, it's mad because all of that information is so valuable to a brand, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, all brands want to know is, do my customers like my product? And if they don't, why?
Yeah, and I was thinking the other day about this and on returns. I was thinking, can we use AI chat GPT-3 or something like that to lower returns, which would also lower impact? And I was just, we were putting some ideas on the board. And what you really want to stop is identify serial returners within the Shopify ecosystem. And probably that's not a job for reviews.io, that's probably a job for Shopify. It really should be saying, hold on, this guy returns 90% of what he orders in the network.
Flag it.
Flag that in the account.
Yeah.
And maybe, you don't want to ban people from shopping in the network on Shopify, but I think maybe you could have a conversation with that person before that item's delivered and saying, all right, do you want to have, before we deliver this, huge box to you, do you want, maybe do a conversation or do something else? I don't know, but there's got to be something
there. Even as a strategy that an e-commerce brand could implement or look to implement is incentivizing less returns.
Less returns, yeah.
So, you could tap into, loyalty from customers that buy from you regularly. And all of that information is there in Shopify. So why not build a strategy around incentivizing customers that aren't serial returners or however you want to, maybe not that term, but.
I did see a company last Black Friday. And what they did, they gave people a score. And if you hadn't returned 3 times within the year, it was a clothing brand, and if you hadn't returned so many times in the year, they actually gave you access to Black Friday earlier.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Who was that?
It was one of the fashion retailers, not Box Raw. It might be Oliver Bonner. So it was one of the fashion retailers we deal with.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking that's a brilliant idea because they're going to sell now at Black Friday, and they're almost those customers don't return products. So they're not going to have the headache. The headache on Black Friday is that you sell a load of stuff, but you get 30% of it back. these guys were giving them access to sell a load of stuff, but get no returns.
Yeah, that's a
back.
great idea.
So, maybe we should do a blog post on that and push that information out.
Well, this is something that we've been talking about recently as well, because obviously, we're talking about the environmental impact of returns as well. And it does seem like there's an opportunity there to incentivize customers with the kind of things that we offer. So, if you do not return, if you think more about what you're purchasing and don't return those items in the end, then could that customer be incentivized with the environmental impact that we offer, for example? And it surprises me that there isn't that type of thing in the traditional rewards system. But because it's a huge environmental impact around returns.
I think delivery cost has a huge, I know that, free delivery works. Free delivery makes you sell a lot more products. But free delivery, in my experience, leads to more returns. So
especially if it's free returns as well.
Free returns, free delivery. It's kind of the default position of e-commerce brands. I know it's not an ideal solution, but should brands be charging both ends? I was looking the other day, someone who's charging now who wasn't charging for deliveries. I think it was Matches Fashion, who they're now charging for returns. And does Boohoo charge for returns?
I'm not a Boohoo customer.
I don't.
You're not a big Boohoo.
I get the feeling that they don't do that.
You've not got your fast fashion outlet.
I think
I'm sure Boohoo were looking at charging returns.
And
I think maybe ASOS started doing it.
Yeah,
it's
one of those. It's either Boohoo or ASOS.
They had insane return rates, right? ASOS. So that is something that they've started to do.
And almost, customers were actively buying more because they knew that they were going to return.
They were going to return, yeah, that's the thing.
Which is a very dangerous game to be playing because...
Put it on Klarna, you don't even pay for it.
Yeah. So, I think free shipping, free returns, both have their benefits. Very dangerous if you're going to offer both.
Yeah.
But I think if you have a free shipping incentive, if that is working to sell more products meaningfully, not just sell more for the sake of it, because they'll get returned or whatever, I think is really important.
It's a very fine line. It's a very, very fine line to work out positioning, to position the brand on that tightrope, because it's very difficult. You could collapse your sales. You could kill your business by saying, right, I'm going to charge for this because.
And I do also think,
more sustainable.
I guess more broadly on the whole subject of sustainability, it is such a fine line. And, yes, we have brands that greenwash, and there's, all of this stuff where they say they're doing things and they're not. And I think what is actually almost as dangerous, if not more dangerous, is almost kind of green shaming, in the sense that...
Well, you're seeing that a lot.
Yeah, that is, in my mind, that is completely counterproductive, because really none of us have all of the perfect answers.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to do it or be better, and actually we should be celebrating and supporting other brands and businesses that are doing better.
That are doing,
rather than shaming.
Moving in the right direction.
Yeah, don't give them the airtime if they're not doing it properly.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate these guys, or do you know what I mean?
I don't think that sells papers or get clicks. If you go, Boohoo's greenwashing, that gets clicks. You know what I mean? Kardashian greenwashing.
Yeah, but I guess it's how you go about it, though, because I think there's the idea of greenwashing. It's pulling the wool over someone's eyes, right? It's like, yes, do good things, move the needle in the right direction, but be transparent about it, which is, you do see a lot of that with bigger brands. They're like, this is a sustainable range. And it's like, you actually dig into it and it's like, oh, it's 20% recycled PET and the rest is just, straight polyester. And you're like, well, that's not sustainable. Like, be honest. I think that's something that we need to see more of. And that's why people get called out for greenwashing, because they are. They might be doing something marginally better, but I think if you're going to do it marginally better, just be transparent about that. This is not perfect. This is not, sustainable.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
Just be honest.
Just be honest. It's better, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, guys, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I appreciate you both so much. So before you go, I just want to ask you one final question, which is always the final question. Have you read a book, listened to a podcast, read a newsletter, anything where you can give our customers a nugget to go away with and do their own research? There must be something. It doesn't even matter what it is. Give us something.
I mean, I'm not going to delve into what I listen to on podcast. I'm terrible at reading books. I don't have the attention span. So I do listen to a lot of podcasts, most of which are completely unrelated to day to day because
that's cool.
I need to
Come on, what
disconnect.
is it?
So I listened to a podcast by the guys that did Workaholics.
Right.
It's called This Is Important, and it is just...
Workaholics, the show?
The show, yeah.
Right.
So
Are they the writers or the actors?
both.
Right, okay.
And they've got their own podcast called This Is Important, which I listened to 2 episodes on the way up.
Is it good?
It just helped, it's good to disconnect, but I guess I should really have an answer.
Is it funny?
Yeah, it's well funny.
Okay, I'm in. I don't care. That's what I want. I need that. I need to smile more. Yeah, fun.
So mine would be Freakonomics. So if you know it.
Love Freakonomics.
Great podcast. I think what's their slogan is like the hidden side of everything. I think it delves into so many sort of big topics and makes it more tangible and easily understandable. I think very interesting from the side of learning about these things, but also it's quite useful for me personally about, breaking down these quite sort of big and sometimes boring or scary topics into something a bit more tangible, which is, something we always try and do as a business. So kind of helps on both sides.
They do a great job. Freakonomics do a great job of simplifying complex topics and actually making them relatable.
Exactly, yeah.
Great podcast. Thanks, guys, for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
No worries.
It's been brilliant. I will put that all in the show notes. I am going to listen to that podcast. If it's not funny, I'm going to send you a nasty message for wasting my time.
This is important.
This is important.
There you go, guys. This is important. Thanks so much.